Yup, I'm reviewing another set of Kabaya toys, this time Transformers Wave 3. Now for those that didn't see my review of Wave 2, I'll give you the very quick rundown here. These are very simple model kits to build and sticker yourself that generally are much more part-formy than your average Transformer toy. They're meant to be very simple, much smaller representations of previous figures. Now with that in mind, I've got 3 toys to review in one video, so I'm gonna kind of zip through this here. Who to start with? You know what, I think I'm gonna start with Super Ginrai, otherwise known as Powermaster Optimus Prime. As the star of this series, they seem to go all out on him to make sure it's probably as solid as a toy as they can manage. Everything on here is pretty well detailed, actually. You've got this part, which this whole panel is all sticker, the striping sticker, top of this is even sticker. All the plastic in this toy line is molded in gray, red, and blue. Any other color you see is stickered on. Now, as with the previous toys, all the wheels are stickered on so they do not roll. But that's not really the purpose of these, so we're not going to knock it that bad. These are extremely cheap toys after all. Cab section also does remove, just like the old one. But unlike the old one, I don't think you're in as much danger of the peg breaking off and ruining the toy for you. The cab section alone is actually done pretty nice with the individual smokestacks and everything. And, of course, you know, it's got the Powermaster or Godmaster. Though, this one is a prime example of one of my griefs about these toys, is the cheap stickers. I mean, you're going to have to poke these stickers back down every so often. And some, especially the Godmaster stickers, they never want to stay. I recommend keeping a glue stick and a toothpick around, just so you can reapply them and make sure they stick on permanently. It's overall a really nice representation, a really nice tiny little Prime, and just for a size comparison, and just for the sake of showing off, if I can actually have it pegged in, there we go. It's pretty much the same size as the world's smallest Prime and trailer, just a tiny bit bigger. But it actually does go in pretty much in scale with that. Super Ginrai, fully transformed. Let's make sure all the joints are nice and tight before we continue with the review. There we go. Actually, in a weird way, I kind of like the proportions they did here a little bit better than the old toy. I mean, unfortunately, I'd have to dig around to get mine out. But, I will tell you this. The arms, fairly longer. The head, a little bit smaller, which brings some better proportion to it. And the chest is also a little bit smaller, giving him a wider girth, a much more powerful appearance. Overall, nice job. Now the weird thing is, this toy actually has a little bit more articulation than the original, because thanks to the way it's assembled, you do have some elbow joints to play with, which is a much appreciated little bonus. Also, we can finish off how he looks. We can add these, which are supposed to be like super smokestacks, but also really big freaking guns. I always support really big freaking guns. Go in. Don't be stubborn. This is for YouTube. You actually want to be professional here. There you go. Fully decked out, fully armed. Yes, they're blue guns. They're supposed to be black. But I already explained it. Overall, this is probably one of the best this line has produced, if not the best. Aside from no part forming, it improves on the original toy in a weird way, and it's a great little desk Optimus Prime to have. If you're like me, I didn't grow up with the original Optimus Prime toy, so Powermaster was my Optimus, and this is a great little version of him to have, especially if you're a G1 Legends collector, because just like Magnus, it is a great scale to have them in. So he goes right in with that collection. And if I had waited one day, I would have been able to demonstrate him alongside the recent G1 Legends Optimus Prime. But I'm impatient, and my schedule is screwed up enough as it is. Because these are small, little, inexpensive model kits, every now and then the molding might be a little bit off. So you might need a little bit of fine sandpaper lying around just in case yours isn't molded quite correctly. Mine, the fists were a little bit too big to fit inside the forearms and cause some nasty stretching and stressing. So what you want to do is, before assembling it, take it off the sprue, see if it fits inside that gap. If it doesn't, if there's any kind of pressure or stress, take it out, sand down the underside of the hand so it doesn't show, until it actually fits in all the way. Then you can attach it as instructed. Next up, the Decepticon. Number 2 we're covering is Starscream, here representing his look in the Henkei line. You can see all the classic details are there, though a lot of the little traits and little detail elements from the classics mold are also present. It's not a bad little representation. The nice gray plastic here with a little bit of a metallic element to it really helps. You have the Decepticon symbols, which will be properly upside down in robot mode. This is going to give you a problematic sticker, though, because it has to go all the way around the cockpit. Otherwise, all the stickering on him is pretty painless because it's all flat surfaces. There's not really a whole lot that's going to give you problems on this toy. You can see the only real downside are all the pegs sticking up off the back. That's all left over from what the robot mode is going to need to combine together. Otherwise, it's a pretty solid little mini representation of Starscream. Now, the scale is horribly off, or actually the scale wouldn't be too bad. This probably is how big the jet would be compared to the semi-truck in real life. But toy-wise, yeah, just like Prowl from the last series, this is hugely out of proportion with all the other figures, so that's a little bit damaging. It does have the missiles on the underside as well. I will give them that. They actually remember to put those in, and that's where you can really see the classics elements to it. They don't fire, since these are simple candy toys, so no spring-loaded gimmicks, but also no risk of shooting your own eye out, so that's a bonus, actually. Overall, not a bad job at all, but at this point I would expect Takara, or, well, anybody handling Transformers to know how to do an F-15 properly by now. Now, unlike Super Ginrai, this one does part form, and this is the inherent flaw of the Starscream figure, because, oh boy, yeah, this kind of looks like Galvatron went on one of his benders again. This is, unfortunately, all the pieces you will have to break Starscream down into in order to get him from one mode to the other, because the toy is so slavish to the design of classic Starscream. You do have a lot of part forming ahead of you. But that aside, putting them back together like a scattered Lego set will result in a fairly decent representation of classic Starscream. Or rather, Henkei Starscream, because that's what all the stickering is based on. You can see it is far closer to the cartoon model than the classic Starscream was, but it does have a lot of those little extras that they threw on, like the little white lines running through the pelvis armor. I've never really been a fan of those lines, but hey, I'm reviewing this toy, so I have to keep it accurate, for the sake of accuracy. Anyway, like I said, for a little model kit, the toy does a pretty good job of recreating the classics toy, though of course the head is blue, since there is no black plastic, and there is no way that stickers could cover that thing up without driving you insane. For articulation, well, the shoulders do go up, and they were thoughtful enough to keep the height of the blasters down a little bit, so unlike the classics version, it doesn't hinder the articulation in the shoulder at all. It's limited enough. It didn't need any worse. Elbows also rotate, or I should say hinge, actually, so that works out too. Head pivots, though it's a little strange to get in because, unlike the classics toy, you don't have a handy-dandy lever in the back to move the head around. The legs, you're pretty much stuck. They don't really do a whole lot except move in and out. So, kind of limited in the posing, but keep in mind, it's an inexpensive figure. It's as best as they could do. Like the rest of the line, it's something that you buy, have fun assembling, and it's a neat little desk toy. You know, small enough to actually have your classic Starscream nearby without actually taking up too much real estate on your work area. I will say, unfortunately, it does have a few balance issues. The wings do make it very back-heavy, and since it's based on the classic Starscream, you don't have much of a heel spur at all. In fact, I would wager to say that is no heel spur. So the feet do have to be a little bit farther up than they do allow. Overall, I mean, if you're like me and you've been following this line, you're just thankful that any Decepticon has been done, let alone Starscream. So it's nice just to have one in the line at last. But with him out of the way, we've got one more Autobot to see. And finally, we have Little God Bomber. And he is appropriately, undistinguishable. Yeah, just like the original G1 toy, there's not a whole lot to really tell me what the hell this is supposed to be. It looks like a camper trailer of some kind. You can see little cockpits in there where the little humans from the show would ride. A massive trailer hitch here on the front. But it really doesn't look like any vehicle that would ever exist, ever. But that is accurate to the original toy, so I really can't knock it in any way. This is exactly what God Bomber is supposed to look like. I will give it this. There is a slight advantage because since the front and the rear section of the vehicle are all the same gray plastic, this actually conforms better. It actually looks a little bit more solid than the original toy because the original had a completely chrome front, which actually kind of threw it off a little bit and made it look more disjointed. Here, nice solid plastic all the way through, that gray, holding this toy together as much as possible, though not really a whole lot. Stickering, not too bad here. You've got quite a few details going on, though this one, the missile tip, yeah, that's going to be a really odd sticker to get on, and I don't think there's any way of really making it look good once it's on there. This is where I would recommend breaking out the paints if you're good with a paintbrush. The main advantage to this one is, of course, that trailer hitch, because just like the original toys, you can actually combine these two together. And it tells you to split these apart in order to combine them, but you don't need to. Not a whole lot to it, really. And there you have the full God Ginrai vehicle mode. Well, save for all the guns, but I think this is conspicuous enough as it is, don't you think? It holds on, it pulls fine. It's a nice little bonus. It's nice that it's included. So, what about robot mode? And now God Bomber in robot mode. Now, I would have demonstrated transformation on him because his is entirely accurate too. Because it is all completely part forming. That is exactly how the original one went. Though, you do have a little bit of actual transformation. The feet do fold out, the hips fold out, the head flips up. So, okay, they improved it a little bit. Or, actually, they kept it as accurate as they could. Anyways, just like Ginrai, this is completely accurate, part forming included, so no big deal on this one. Now again, we have blue head syndrome. We will ignore it. Actually, though, the way this is constructed, it's a little bit more colorful than the original, thanks to the big red shoulders now, which were much smaller in the original because they were completely covered up by the big gauntlets. Also, due to new engineering, we also have the benefit of head articulation, which was lacking in the original. Along with that, shoulders, as well as elbows, and, as always, moving hips to the outside. So, pretty much, again, same old, same old. For those who have never seen God Bomber, he's pretty much a little generic, to be honest. Because he's pretty much a supplementary toy for Super Ginrai. We'll get to that in a minute, but I want you to see his details, see his big blue tail hanging off of his butt. I want you to just take him in a little bit before we move on to his true purpose. I mean, overall, yeah, he's probably the weakest one in the set, mostly because, well, he's a pretty weak Transformer to begin with. All because of his purpose with, yes, Super Ginrai. So, I guess there's only one thing to do. In order to properly demonstrate God Bomber, we must combine! Behold, fully combined in all of his glory, I present to you Candy Toy God Ginrai. Very accurately recreated, and to an extent, maybe a little bit improved, no less. Now, unfortunately, I don't have the larger version, so I can't really tell you from first-hand experience how accurate this is. Even though I just mentioned how accurate it was. Never mind that. From what I've seen on pictures, though, this comes pretty close, and actually does a couple little bits of improvement. Because the arms are in better proportion in Super Ginrai mode, God Ginrai has better proportions as well. They actually did a little bit of adjusting to make the fists actually extend a little bit farther than they did on the original toy, so his arms don't look so stumpy compared to his now huge legs with super boots. Backpack, again, well, pretty much a place to store extra parts. The wings are a little silly. I don't think they're going to get him off the ground. The one really gripe I have here is, well, I have two. Number one, the boots don't stay on very well. In fact, they kind of rely on you having the double guns plugged in. I prefer having the guns up here where the smokestack should be, and I think they look better there still. But then the feet will fall off pretty much immediately. The only other issue I have is, well, his head is really freaking tiny in this form. That was why the Powermaster Prime had such a big head, was to compensate for all this extra armor and girth. Yeah, well, that doesn't really happen here because of the adjusted proportions, so, yeah, tiny head Prime. It's a little goofy looking. But that's really the only thing I can take away from this. I mean, a lot of people are going to push off God Bomber as kind of a throwaway toy in this set just because there are so many others who haven't gotten one of these already. But they did Super Ginrai so well, I think it's better that they did go with God Bomber. It would have felt missing. On his own, he's not going to be worth it, so definitely make sure you've got them both. Overall, despite God Bomber being a little bit more disappointing than the other two, I've got to say this is probably my favorite series of these toys so far. Now, the only thing that's going to throw you off is the fact that you only get 3 toys out of a box of 8, so definitely have somebody prepared to take at least the extra set off your hands. The other 2 extras are going to be Super Ginrai and Starscream, though, so I doubt you'll have any trouble getting rid of those too. And then everyone's happy because you all got them for a fair price. My set came from Hobby Link Japan, so you can go pick yours up there and have your buying companion ready before purchasing. Me, on the other hand, I didn't line up a buying buddy. I have a ton of these things now. Lots and lots of boxes of unused plastic. Yeah, I've got to do something with those soon.